Chapter 20. There are some feelings that are felt only. They cannot be described using any elaborate words of the human language. They merely are just there to be felt. Sure, you can try to describe them, but it fails to capture the depth of the feeling when you feel it. Our family dog died quite unexpectedly one morning. I was 12 years old. My daily chore was to get up every morning and walk him. This wasn't a chore in my opinion. I loved to clip my Walkman onto my belt, put my headphones on, and just wander throughout the neighborhood with Happy Toby on the end of the leash. It helped me clear my head. It was a great way to start my day. I walked past his cage as usual, which was located in the laundry room by the back door. "Rise and shine, Toby! Do you want to go for a walk?" I called in my sing-song, high-pitched voice reserved only for animals. I unlocked the cage door and let it fling open. I reached up to pull down the leash hanging on the wall and noticed something amiss. Usually, as soon as the leash was in my hand, Toby was right there, sitting and waiting to be hooked up. "Toby?" I asked, looking around. He was still in his cage and looked asleep. "Come on, lazy dog," I screamed at him. I knew that he was dead. I just was in a massive state of denial. I beat the top of his cage to jar him to life. "Get up, you stupid dog! You know it's time for your walk!" I yelled louder. Still lifeless and in eternal sleep, Toby was not walking today. I began kicking the cage in a repeated fashion, screaming at the same time, "Get up! Get up!" Tears streaming down my face as I tried to rouse my beloved dog who was not going to come out for his walk. Never was I going to have a warm tongue to lick my face as I cried from a scraped knee like that time I fell off my bike. Never would I have a soft companion to lay on the couch with as I watched TV to escape reality. Gone was the creature who loved me the most and eagerly anticipated my arrival home from school each day. Gone the one who woke up so very happy to see me every morning. "Cat, stop!" Sean came in and pulled me away. "He won't get up!" I wailed. Sean knelt down and felt the dog. "Cat, he's gone." 13-year-old Sean spoke, the grown-up one. "I don't know exactly how I am feeling about this," I said honestly. "It's okay," Sean looked up at me. "Some feelings you can't explain." The next few weeks basically consisted of me moving through the stages of loss. I shut myself away and refused to eat. Alan was beside himself with ways to help me. I just needed some time and space to myself. I needed to be alone. I clung to the hope that soon Sean would be awake and I could resume the normal life that I needed to live. For now, though, I was completely over living. I had come so alive when I was with Finlay that when I ripped myself away from him, I left a massive piece of myself behind. I had no idea what this feeling was. All I knew was I had to mourn this loss and prepare myself for what was to come. I kept my promise and went to the hospital that Monday morning. Completely as a zombie, ignoring my surroundings as I got my stitches removed. Everyone knew that I needed time and space in order to heal. Even Izzy gave me a few weeks before she knocked on my door one gloomy spring afternoon. "Knock, knock!" She pushed open my door. I was sitting on my bed, hugging my knees, staring out the window. "Hey, you," she said and sat down next to me. She waited for me to speak. She allowed me the time in which I needed to get my head clear before I could talk. I seemed to find myself, day after day, waiting for the van to pull up and for him to walk out, I said softly, my voice scratchy from all the sobbing I had been doing. He seems to be making signs of improvement, Izzy added positively. Yeah. But he isn't awake. He isn't home. I choked down the tears that seemed to rumble up through my throat. I can see that pretty face of yours now. With your stitches removed and the bruising fading, you look like a different, yet still beautiful woman, she said as she brushed my long bangs off my forehead. I have scars, I said plainly. You have beauty marks of strength, she smiled. We sat quietly again. I wondered what to say. I was trying to keep this overwhelming anger at life from surfacing and hurting her. She was only there to help me, only there as a friend who loved me and wanted to see me better. Kat, what happened on the mountain? She asked after several more moments of quiet. It was like she had been dying to ask me that since she walked through the door. I found him, I said softly. Her eyes grew wide and her smile showed her delight. Then I ran away, I added, sorry to disappoint her, but needing to be honest. That's wonderful, she said and grabbed my hand. No, it isn't. It isn't right for me to meet him when Sean is so bad off, I said. I want to tell you a little story, Izzy said, grabbing my attention. There was a girl who loved everyone. She was enlightened from birth, and her only mission in life was to love and heal others. She started as she slipped her shoes off and pulled her legs up on my bed to cross them about her. She met her soulmate. They reunited. When they reunited, it was such a vulnerable moment, as she could literally see the depths of his soul. His soul was not pretty. In fact, it was downright ugly. He still had a long way to go in his spiritual journey. He ran away from her. She chased him for a while, but knew that he had to awaken fully before they could be together. As painful as it was, as painful as it is, she paused slightly, holding her breath. She knew she had to wait until all was in alignment before they could be together. She has been waiting for 20 years. She had this deep, ancient feeling about her as she spun the tale. She was an amazing old soul. How do you know this? Is this girl a friend of yours or something? I asked, thoroughly depressed by the story. This girl is me, she smiled. I reunited with my one when I was 16. Such a young age to reunite. I stared at her with eyes wide open. As evolved and awakened as Izzy was, that still didn't mean she had a happily ever after just yet. You are so close to finishing this part of your awakening. I want you to push to finish your book. Finish your book and you will be amazed at what falls into place. Wisdom seemed to spread from her soul and reached out to touch me in a way that made me feel empowered. Running away was part of the journey? I had to run in order to make it to this level. Surely this was a sign of it all slowly coming together. Even though I felt this immense pain and loneliness from being separated from Finlay, I knew that I needed to soldier on, for Sean and for Finlay. I was overwhelmed with life in general, that tackling one thing at a time was the best that I could do at that moment. I took Izzy's advice and continued to work on the book. In the mornings, I began coming down to eat breakfast with Alan. It must have been lonely for him, too. Mother showed up once in a while to shower and change clothes. We were a family displaced. He would fix enough food each meal for the both of us. We would sit in silence and eat, but it was comforting enough knowing that someone was right there. I was spending a lot of time each morning in a meditative state. It gave me the insight and the words in which to write. After lunch, I would pour out words onto my electronic canvas until dinner. By then, I was exhausted enough to just barely make it through dinner and a bath before I collapsed. Spilling your soul into a story like drops of blood was draining. I was getting my strength back little by little. I was beginning to realize that horrific occurrences and the loss of the love of your life was severely taxing on you in all senses, emotional, physical, spiritual. It all combined to leave one extremely exhausted girl. At night, despite the exhaustion, sometimes I couldn't sleep. My thoughts would drift to Sean and wondering if he was getting stronger. Then they would slide over to Finlay, and the question of where he was would pop into my mind. I wanted them both in my life. Was that too much to ask? It was the never-ending drama with me. If I can't have it all, I don't want anything. If I can't have both my brother and my beloved in my life, then I can't have one of them in my life. What was I missing? Apart from the book not being done, there was something I was not quite getting. It was this nagging poke telling me to wake up and fix this. But what was this? I often fell asleep at 2 a.m. after running from heartache to heartache in my mind, questioning my ability to handle it at all, but also wondering if I would ever reach the surface alive. At the moment, I was drowning, and Sean was nowhere in sight to help me out this time. Despite my helpless thoughts, I worked harder through the pain than I ever had in my entire life. My old work ethic involved suppressing the pain deep enough so I could have a life and ignore the hurting, the Band-Aid treatment. My new work ethic was to bring it up to the surface and feel the pain as it was happening around me. I was like a boiling pot of water, bubbling over as I tried to carry on through life. I was thankful for my limited responsibilities, because otherwise I would have made a much bigger mess with my life than I already was. I was flailing about, stumbling through the writing of my first book, trying to interact with those around me with love and sensitivity. I just held my breath and dove into life, spilling bits and pieces of me along the way.